Young fella, you give me permission to publish this interview on social media.
For sure.
And get your name, please.
Frankie James Dobbins.
Frankie, where'd you grow up?
Kings Mountain.
Kings Mountain?
Kings Mountain, North Carolina, right here.
Were you loved as a child?
I believe my mother and father loved me. Most certainly.
Are your you got mom and dad still alive? Siblings?
They passed away. I've got a half sister and a half brother I don't have no relationships with.
What's your favorite childhood memory?
That's a tough one. Honestly, I can't say that I have any. I mean, I take a lot of strained thought. I'm sure there's a day in there somewhere.
You had a pretty rough upbringing?
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Well, my stepmom, I guess she was abused as a child, is what my father helped me understand about my stepmom. And she hated my mom, and she kind of came into my family like a cancer. She was first married to my grandfather, and then off. Well, I don't want to say she offed him, but he passes, and then she gives my father the ultimatum because she has already taken care of me and my sister uh, to marry her and divorce my mom. Well,
So
immediately,
your grandma became your mama?
my step grandmother. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know where she came from. I've dug and looked to see where she come from because I've learned a lot about plot twisting and people that have severe bad intentions, and trying to understand where it comes from. I don't yet have I discovered what her intentions were. I can remember her dying words when she says to me that she loves me. She asked me to forgive her, but she is also on her deathbed too, at the greatest fear of meeting her maker. You know.
Well, I understand that.
But I forgave her, and I think it helped both those. But she done a lot of damage. She kept me away from my mom, my mother, my father, my real family. She kept me standing in the corner most of the time. Denied me any uh, joys, and made it clear to me at the age of 3 and on up until she finally, not long before she passed away, that she was going to make sure that I was going to be ruined. Me and my mom both. And she had, surely you know about narcissism. We get it confused. We get narcissism mixed up with a lot of other mental health conditions. But she was narcissist and psychopathic and greedy. And
Everything was all about her.
All about her, and no one was to have anything to do with my dad. My dad was a fast thinker, and he liked to gamble a little bit with blackjack, and so she discovers that he's got accounts various places, and she was determined to keep me and my sister both from getting anything from my father's inheritance. Of course, all we wanted was a father anyway. So uh, I'm still learning about the conditions that she caused me by keeping me away from my mother and my father and keeping me standing in the corner, always at the fault. Uh, it never made no sense to me. And she always knew where I was at, what I was doing, because I was only allowed to stand at attention. And if I was in trouble, I was standing in the corner with bar soap in my mouth. God knows what most of the time. I was always the bastard child. And in my stepmom's eyes, a bastard child deserved the worst. A dog deserved more and better. And that's exactly what I got. I got to watch the dogs and the cats get treated much better than I was treated.
You married with kids?
Yeah, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
You gotta be raised right to be able to hold a relationship. And all of us men, we long for a wife and kids and the home American dream.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not raised upright in it, you struggle trying to figure out how to make it work. Because we have a lot of built up frustrations, anger, and disappointments.
So it affected your marriage. How did it affect your marriage?
Well, I was a raging alcoholic for majority of my life. I've been clean off of alcohol for the most part for maybe 9, 11 years, other than picking up a beer here, there, and the inner social. I can't even hardly drink a whole beer unless I make myself. But I'm proud of that. Well, not proud, I'm glad.
No, I'm proud of that.
I mean, it's exactly like I didn't believe. No stories that no man had ever told me in jail or rehab or AA meetings and stuff like that. The Holy just took it away. He sure did. He took it away from me. I bought case after case after case after case, bottles and bottles and bottles, and throwing them away, getting them away, pouring them out, getting frustrated because that's all I knew was I wanted to express myself or escape my frustrations and worries. I just down a case of beer and take a couple shots and raise hell. That wasn't the person I wanted to be, neither. But I didn't know what to do with all the anger. I got a son and a daughter. They're both the same age. It's very confusing to me because my wife, she was already pregnant with my son, and I didn't want my son being born a bastard child because I knew the curse that I carried. So I told my wife, I said, "Well, we're gonna go get married." We was about to split up, but I already knew she was so young and fragile. As strong as she was still young, fresh, and fragile. She wasn't, but she had just turned 16, and I was 21. Here we was having a son. Neither of us knowed anything about having a successful, happy family. So I was the worst thing that could ever happen to her. And so I threw myself off a tower down here on Duke Street and electrocuted myself trying to free my wife and kids. That didn't cure me from alcohol, but the
So you tried
biggest,
to commit suicide.
yeah, many times. Started trying to commit suicide probably first time uh, logically in my mind as a child, trying to hold my breath and drown myself in the bathtub. To finally pulling a radio of some sort. My stepmom kept on the bathroom counter into the bathtub with me, electrocuting myself as a child. I think I must have been 6 or 7. That was an experience. But somehow I got it in my head that electricity was my way out. But it enhanced me in many ways other than taking my life. But I did go to hell, I tell you. Hell is real.
Tell me about it.
Um, Hell for me was a flash of reality as to what hell can be. And it was my life made over again, but intensified with horror, torture, all the injuries that I've caused myself, all the pain that I've suffered my loved ones and those that I didn't even know existed. Uh, I came to my aid in prayer, and I could hear them from hell praying to God, please help this young man. And I knew that my body was still alive. I was laying there in a coma, but my soul was apparently in hell. And I woke up to the doctor standing at the foot of my bed telling me, I need you to wake up. I need you to let us know that you're with us. You gotta fight. You gotta fight, boy. You gotta fight. I don't know, maybe not the exact words, but I comprehended that he needed me to fight for my life. And he made it clear to me that my wife had the decision. She was uh, given the option to cut off the life support and what have you. And luckily, they made a medical science over my wife because they had to kick her out of the McDonald's house uh, for throwing parties. There I was fighting for my life. Of course, I did put my wife through hell, so it was probably in her mind a good thing because she also thought that she was going to inherit a lot of money too. Um,
What put you in a
so
coma?
jumping off the tower, electrocuted myself, and it was strange. I don't know. I never have gotten an opportunity to go back and ask the doctors. I want the opportunity to do so though. They told me 144,000 volts surged through my body. This is before I knew anything about the 144,000. I knew nothing about the 144,000. Uh, then God begins to reveal things to me as to what my purpose is.
What's your purpose?
My purpose is redemption.
For yourself?
But we're all saviors of the world that seek the light of heaven and seek grace and to install in ourselves grace, for that's what Christ came. He came to deliver grace and also to learn obedience in the flesh. And so to go back and much as a messenger back to his Father, himself and the Holy Spirit, and experience. He came and experienced the cruelties of the world. This was the third pass already.
So do you see yourself as a messenger or a Messiah?
I see myself as Frankie James Dobbins with an important role that leads to redemption, because we're at the last stages.
We are in the last stage.
And if everybody was to step back and take notice, we have to admit the world is greater, lesser than people than it was when we was younger. I mean, the streets was crowded. There was people going everywhere in state parks, and everybody was outside, or Carowinds. You see the Carowinds Park now, or Disney Park and stuff. Man, it looks like a ghost town now in comparison. The redemption is for us. We're the last ones. We inherit the earth, and if one's a straggle, and we don't get it, so we all have to pull together, arm in arm, hand in hand, heart to heart, shoulder to shoulder, eye to eye, mind to mind, and get over our differences and understand that our differences arrive from uh, a a cycle of traditions and teachings and genetics and uh, uh, birth defects and all that stuff that creates us as we are today. And to see through one another's eyes our struggles, and to be able to communicate to anybody and everybody. The Lord, He spoke in parables for everybody to understand, but they were still those that refused to understand. They couldn't understand His words, His dark sayings, and it infuriated them. They thought that He was the enemy out to take the power. Well, that was the case, but not to take the power away from them, but give them life without the
Take their
torment.
power away from them.
Yeah, because the way man drove power was through fear, installing fear in one another. The more fear, the more mightier you were, the more power you had. And the more power you had, the more fortune you had. Because you could just tell anybody, boss them around then. And it's pretty much like that now. We all suffer a great suffering if we don't get this redemption thing right. It's the miracle. And that's what I advocate, is A Course in Miracles, Volume Text 1, Foundation for Inner Peace of God. 1997, my best friend drove me off a cliff down in Martin Marietta rock quarry. Might be familiar with the story, but as we know about social media or news media, they jump on. It don't have to be the truth. It don't have to be the fact. They just got to get something printed. So my experience, my best friend drove me off a cliff, Glen Carroll, down in Mount Marietta rock quarry. I was 17
Carol.
years old. I was going into the Marines.
I know Carol.
And my bestest friend, Johnny Batchelor, was moving to Florida. So that left Glenn, I think, in a frightened state, because it had always been Frankie, Johnny, and Glenn. Glenn, he was a straggler. He was all over the place. I was on his heels trying to keep up with him, trying to keep him out of trouble. Because I tried to tell him when we was children that I seen tragedy. Tragedy came, and that just made him worse. Eventually, um, after he drove me off the cliff, we tried to make amends. But he had something in his heart that he never did explain or verbally say it, but he felt like that maybe I had betrayed him or something, some kind of way. And I think he felt that I was going to leave him in the world. I was going to break my promises. It was it wasn't a kid with much to say, but if he did speak, it was, you better understood what he was saying, because he spoke with vengeance or how would you call it, retaliation, because he felt like he had been robbed of something. I don't know. But anyways, we both survived, and several years later, he ends up driving him and his brother's wife and kids off into a ravine on Black Snake Drive in Blacksburg, I think it was. And they escaped the wreck, but left the kids in the car, went to go get help, and when the drunk driver come down the road, hit them both, knocked them on the top of the tree, and killed them. It took investigators and searchers a long time to look up and see them hanging from tree branches. I struggled with that, but I've lost a lot of friends, I've lost a lot of brothers, and I fall trapped chasing love, and that's what got me mixed up with. Uh, when I was a kid, I was brought up to know them as jankos. It means somebody put them on you to sabotage you, because either you intimidate them or they're afraid that you're going to cause them problems. And I've always been an explorer. So I walk around and I look and I listen and make noises and make sound, listen to vibrations and echoes and all that stuff. And it gets people worked up. They think I'm nosing around. And in a way, I guess you could say I am, because I hear cries. Where's these cries coming from? The authority over mankind, they're the puppet masters, and if you're not knowledgeable, you fall victim to being a puppet.
Yeah.
And your whole life can be steered this way or that way. You can be made whatever, all the way from birth. The doctor takes a look at us and says, he studies us with his expertise and says, this one's going to uh, have this genetic flaw, or blah, blah, blah. He'll be good for this, he'll be good for that. And children have been misplaced, switched out. In my investigations, is all kinds of things through what man thought that he knew caused mass confusion. And I'm surprised to not see the book out yet, because it's an ancient book. Uh, it's The Great Deception.
And the Lord told me, He said, He's got an ear, let him hear what the Spirit's saying to the church. In other words, if we're in fellowship with God, we're not going to be deceived, because the Spirit will come and guide us in all truth.
That's right.
But if we're not in fellowship, if we are not saved, we are going to be deceived in this last hour.
Well, we must be in fellowship with the Spirit of the universe, you understand? If we're not in the Spirit of the universe, which is the Almighty, He is all things, everything, all the way down to the cigarette. When we light it up, He's the light, the dark, He's the Alpha, Omega. And what people don't want to, most Christians don't want to think of, is a loving, merciful God. But if you mistreat, misuse love, it don't remain love like you would want to receive it. It becomes a angry love, a vengeful love, a fearful love, a hurtful love, and a reflection as to what we showed. And if we're not in fellowship in the spirit of the universe, and then we come against one another, because the spirit of the universe is the master of all things. He's omnipotent. He's all powerful. So he's every image. He's your image, my image. I'm living in an abandoned house. I can't seem to break myself away from it. One, the police, they went through a struggle with the past 5 years of the criminal minds and their craftiness and their expertise and craftiness managed to uh, confuse the law, I think. I don't really want to get into too much detail about my opinion on that, but to answer your question, I've been on the streets ever since I was 12. My stepmom told me to pack me a bag and get the hell out of my daddy's house. Don't come back.
Just after your daddy passed away?
Mm-hmm. He only passed away a few years ago, but uh, I didn't get to come home like everybody else that lived in my father's house anytime I pleased or needed to. I was always made to sit outside. It didn't matter what the weather was, and had to catch the third degree if I asked for a piece of bread and stuff like that. Um, Uh,
Uh,
me getting injured, '97 when Glenn drove me off that cliff, it put me back in my stepmom's stronghold. Because my dad brought her back home to take care of me. I was bedridden. Needed somebody to help me change my bandages and all that stuff. And that was her way to get back a hold of me and keep her promise. She made a promise to me as a child and throughout my life, to compromise my life and to pretty much suffer me and my mom. Um, so when I left home, uh, I took what lessons my dad gave me before he let me go out on the streets. He bought me a bicycle. It's the coolest bike in town. He put it together, and he says, "Now go make friends. Don't get too far away from home. And if you do, give me a call. I'll find you. And don't forget your street address, your home address, my phone number, blah, blah, blah." He give me all the things. He said, "Now go make friends. Don't stay gone too long."
is this lifestyle dangerous? Living out in the street?
Yes, it's very deteriorating on the soul, the body,
Tell me
the
about it.
mind, especially if you can't get the help and the assistance. Compromised my ability to be able to enhance, to excel. I've had to educate myself for various purposes and reasons. Uh, I'm learning now that uh, everything is under control, but if we refuse uh, the Holy Spirit, He'll fix it, but we'll suffer our own bad choices and decisions. We can veer off from what's best uh, advised or needful. But being on the streets and somehow or another, as a child, already being judged uh, by your peers, teachers, community, families, uh, preventing me from being able to get the help I needed. I started crying out for help before I even left home, and that just caused me a whole hell of a lot more trouble, more abuse. Social services come in. I mean, you know how when we're in school, they say if you've been abused at home in any kind of way, tell a teacher, tell the principal, tell an adult, blah blah blah. And the child believes that. The child's like, yes, okay, they're gonna help me, they're gonna save me. But then when every opportunity taken uh, caused you more pain and suffering, you begin to withdraw from people. You don't believe them no more. They make promises. I'm gonna come back for you, son. I'm not gonna leave you in this situation. I see what's going on. I want you to know. We know. Me and my wife know. See the kids. We know. We're coming back. We're gonna help you. They don't come back. And all through life, it was like that.
What's the most misunderstood thing about being homeless?
People don't people don't take the time to understand what the leading cause is to homelessness. They don't understand misplacement. They don't understand uh, the mental and the psychological damage it does, and what the damage was that caused them to be homeless. Um, just just about everybody I've met on the streets wanted to excel, had dreams, had goals, but didn't know how to get their foot in the door because everybody they go to, they know that they're supposed to be able to go to, like authorities or an educator or someone over a ward, a shelter, a counselor, a psychiatrist. You go down the list of people trying to get where everybody else is at. But somehow or another, well, my own experience, I found myself being uh, ricocheted or rejected, swept aside, lied to. And each time a child is lied to, uh, they don't forget it. She don't forget it. everybody becomes untrustworthy. So that's why the homeless walks around with looks on their face. They're frightened. They're afraid. There's some real bad guys out there, and their intentions are to create mayhem and sabotage and this and that. And in my research, I've yet to understand it, because the ones that I've discovered that are into sabotage, killing, stealing, and destroying, they didn't have that bad of a childhood. They didn't, from what I got from them. They tell me, huh, my home life was just fine. My parents was good to me. I had everything I wanted and needed. But they're presenting themselves as to be homeless on the streets just to look for victims. Just like in the Word. They'll lie in wait. And the most odd places, the methamphetamine caused people to start climbing in trees. You have people hiding in trees from the predator, and you have predators hiding in trees, ditches, and under cars, houses. Listen, I mean, they'll crawl under your house and listen to what you got going on in there. Listen to you. People should take much precaution when it comes to your family's security, because kinds of people that I've had to get their attention on me. The reason I took the approach that I did was to try to learn them, and to deter from either they're in fear and fright, or they have bad intentions. And the ones that have bad intentions, they don't want to hear anything about heaven or hell. But the ones in fear and fright look to see me again. And uh, most of the ones in fear and fright, somehow or another, I was able to give them advice that I wasn't able to take for myself. So there's people that are just simply misfortunate, pushed to the side, because they have this fear and fright in them, and they carry themselves a certain way. They don't have the right vocabulary. They can't read or write, or they just have that scared look on their face that people don't understand. That's what it is. They're scared to death because they don't know how to ask for help. It's prevented me from going to people for help, because I'll be standing there waiting and say, "Hey, what are you here for?" "Oh, yeah, me too." "You ain't had no luck neither?" "Oh, you hear that?" And then we're sitting there listening to the insults of what people really think about the homeless, all the way to laws being created to have homeless people incarcerated just because they're homeless. They don't have nowhere to go. They don't have no friends, no family, or the family's corrupt, misplaced, misunderstood, trapped, nowhere to go. So it's it's understandable why some stray to the dark side, and they take a part in the dark world as killers, stealers, destroyers, thieves, murderers, plot twisters, mockers, because it protects them. They found a safe place. As long as they're with the bad guys ain't giving them a hard time, because the good guys ain't protecting them. The good guys ain't doing the job. The good guys have become assistant to the terrorists, which now most homeless people do not trust the police.
No, I deal with them. I deal with both sides of it in Gaston County, half years. What's your biggest regret?
Hurting my mind, hurting my brain, polluting my body. Uh, as strong as I am, the things that I've had to overcome and survive, if I hadn't polluted myself with drugs, I would be the mighty man that the heavens and many people that I've crossed paths with has tried to convince me that I'm set aside something important, more special than than I could ever imagine. But for me to see that myself, it's hard for me to. It was in the past. It's been hard for me to accept that the heavens is working miracles with me, and my mind is now expanded. I'm starting to see things in a more mature way, in a more mature light. But what I suffer with right now is there's some sort of blockage, and it's a spiritual thing. There are true witches in the world that work black, dark magics, the root. They'll put a root on you just to control you. That's just another way of puppeteering and puppetizing somebody if you know how to work the elements.
You ever practice magic?
When I was a child, when I first met my half brother, uh, Johnny, he uh, he was very demonic, but spiritually religious too. He loved the Almighty God. He loved the universe, but he peered into some of the wrong books, and so those dark spirits grabbed a hold of him, possessed him. And I've dealt with, I've been possessed, but as we know, the Holy Spirit will possess you too.
How was
And
you possessed?
uh,
What caused it, and what was the effects of it?
calling out the dark, calling out the evil, and so the demon Gnostic world decided to give me a taste of it. So my experience with it just advanced me in my experience in such a thing. I know it's real now. I know it's real now. I know if someone's got a dark spirit on them, and that's another thing I advocate, and I'm trying to expert is the miracle, because the miracle uh, destroys anything of dark purpose or meaning or intention. I mean, it obliterates it. I mean, I've turned around and looked back. Anybody was cussing at me or had the gun on me or anything like that. Just like in the Book of Miracles, says He will correct it. Be invincible. Be fearless. Fear is the worst thing that we can allow into us. Just one little speck of fear, even if you don't see it in yourself, if it's there and you allow it to grow, manifesting, that's what you become. Your greatest fears are happening around you. But you be strong in the spirit. There's nothing so serious that can harm you. And the word means it. He will never allow anything or put us through more than what we can handle. It's all for our refinery. It's building us to make us strong soldiers, to go out into the field with experience and to know what we're looking at and what we're dealing with. But if you have bad intentions, you'll get sucked into it. Sure enough.
What's the most important thing that you've learned in life so far?
Trust in God has been the very most important thing. And He's kept His every word and every promise to me, even to the detailed things that the world don't want to hear. The promises that He's made to me. He let me know as a child that I was going to be a voice. Well, I thought I must have been going nuts. Who's this in my head talking to me? A voice. Man, I don't even know how to talk. I wasn't allowed to talk. I was scared to talk, and every time I talked, I stuttered, I slowed my words, ran all my words and sentences together. You couldn't understand a daggone thing I said. So how am I going to be a voice for anything? And then uh, the power of prayer. If you ask for the understanding, He will surely deliver it to you. So He delivered me a book called A Course in Miracles, Volume Text One, Foundation for Inner Peace, and that's what that's that's what I derive from. The miracle lies in me.
What's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is letting people down, like with Jessica. She's she's been she's been a hard work, but I believe in the miracle. I don't care what kind of demons she might have in her. I don't care uh, how mean and whatever her intentions is. She leads a strong impression on the dark world, and she means it when she says it. And I don't nobody want to come against her because she'll cause them more problems. She'll sabotage them, and she even proved it to me through the police department and everything else. Uh, and if you ain't at her beck and call, you're on the wrong side. Well, I've been grateful, even though I lash out in anger, frustration, madness. I become wrathful, and sometimes I say things I have to go back and apologize to her. She was such a mean, evil person. She still is evil, but not as much as she was. She made me make a promise to her not to ever give up on her, not to let her down, not to hurt her, not to judge her. And she then again says, "Don't never leave me, don't forsake me, don't give up on me. Everybody else has. That's why I am the way I am." So I can understand that. I can understand that. So that's why I'm stuck with Jessica Michelle Harris Robinson.
And
Until
who is
she,
this?
uh, it's probably about the only female you actually see me with, unless one of these gals walk up to me and they're scared somebody's giving them a hard time, or they need something, or just need somebody to talk to. Jessica Michelle Harris Robinson is the only person you really see me with. I don't even hang out with none of my friends, if I even have any.
Anybody's living in the street dealing with homelessness, what would your advice to them be?
Educate yourself in social psychology. Pick up the word and don't put it down until it becomes a part of you. Believe it, no matter how untrue it may seem, because it seems like uh, uh, the world's just crashing in on you. He hears, and he will come through for you. But if you turn away, he'll let you walk away, because you're gonna come back in fear. It's a sure thing. We'll all have to accept the truth and the realities and the facts. And once we do so, it's not so hurtful and painful, because there really are some evil people in the world. So the best advice I can give is get into A Course in Miracles. Get to know everything you can about your Creator and all of His creation. Because we all are individually a miracle. And it's our job, it's our duty, it's our decree as individuals, arm in arm, hand in hand, heart to heart, shoulder to shoulder, eye to eye, mind to mind. We are held accountable one, two, and for another. If one falls, we all fall, because it's a link in the chain. There's a link missing because we decided to judge them instead, give up on them. And then it's kind of like the earth being on a chain. There's a missing link from here to heaven, because we decided to kill, steal, and destroy instead of lift them up, instead of grabbing them by the hand. On the contrary of that, too, you got to be strong, you got to be experienced, you got to be educated. I dove into it blindfolded, practically, scared for my friends. My mind still ain't right, but the Holy promises and has assured me that He'll restore me entirely and completely, plus my insanity too. We all have to be strong to and for one another, and we will regain our sanity and our whole self. It's understandable why some stray to the dark side, and they take a part in the dark world as killers, stealers, destroyers, thieves, murderers, because it protects them. They found a safe place. As long as they're with the bad guys ain't giving them a hard time, because the good guys ain't protecting them. The good guys ain't doing their job.